Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Aspire. I am super excited to have Angela Costin-Jones back. You may remember her from when she was on a previous episode where her and her great friend, Conchetta Dixon, gave some great nuggets on stress relief during the pandemic. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you do so after this. Now, throughout the episode, Angela alluded to her being a working mom and wife, and I personally wanted to take a deeper dive with her on how she balances all of that on top of extracurricular stuff. I, as well as many others, I'm sure, aspire to be just as great as she, and I hope that she can shed some light, to help you prepare to shine if and when you have the opportunity of balancing these roles presents itself to you. Remember, what works for Angie may not all work for you, but you can utilize the advice and the light that she shines and tweak it to your situation. So Angie, I have already asked you previously about your background and who or what inspires you to succeed. So I just first want to say, I'm not going to ask you that today. I'm just going to jump right into the questions. And I just want to thank you so much for coming back, first and foremost. So welcome back.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So jumping right into it, what is the easiest thing about balancing all of this? And what is the hardest thing?
I'll say, okay, so one thing I did not do is I didn't want to look at the questions, and I didn't want you to get anything rehearsed. Because being a mom and a wife and all that other stuff, there's no rehearsal. You just jump right in it. There's no rehearsal. But the easiest, it gets easier over time, right? When you first jump into it, you think you're doing everything wrong and you're not doing anything right. So I think it's just as time progresses and the longer you're married, and the older the kids are, it gets a little bit easier. I can't say to the point that there is a recipe out there, but I can tell you that as you get to know yourself, you kind of figure out what fights that you need, what battles that you need to take and which ones you don't. What's the hardest thing? Is you want everybody safe and you want to do everything for everyone and you can't. I think that's the hardest thing, and is allowing to whatever teachings you give or whatever example you provide is to allow the other person time to mess up, time to make mistakes, time to get the big wins and the losses, but you just allow that to happen. And I think that's the hardest thing. And that's where I am in that space now.
Okay. No, I like that. And sometimes it's just a matter of saying no, right? A lot of times people don't understand that it's okay to say no. You get scared of disappointing all of these people, right? Now, you talked about this in the last episode where sometimes you tell people, listen, I just need a minute. I absolutely loved that. Because I find when I say, I just need a minute. So talking about that, how do you work to take care of your mental space aside from just telling people straight up, I need a second?
It's one of those things that you have to, over time, you find your no, or you find your moment to actual put into words, I need a minute. And I'm learning just to take it, wherever it is. I don't care how small it is. I don't care if it's going. My husband says, when I go out and say I got to run errands, right? Now he understands what I mean, because my errands may be quick 20 minutes to 4 hours. Okay. Now, I don't let people, sometimes depending on how it is, I'll say, well, I got to go this, that, and the third, right? But then sometimes I'm like, I'm just driving around and, I wanted to go do this today. Oh, I want to do that today. I just take it, and I think that's the biggest thing, is just knowing that you can take it and you don't have to explain yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like you do have to tell, hey, I'm not going to be home a certain time, but I'm not going to be right back home. Right. But I don't have to say, well, I did this because I needed it, or I did this
Right.
because, and it's okay if I do. Nope. I used to do that.
Mm.
And now I'm like, nope, I just take it. I just take it
You
because
feel
you have to.
obligated.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
And then at the end of the day, people do it to you. Like they do whatever they need to do while you're sitting there like, oh, well, I could have did this for myself because you took your time.
Right.
What you do? I'm reclaiming my time. So you
I
just
like
take it.
that. Take it and
Mhm.
reclaim your time, right? So,
Yeah.
we talked about this because it's a lot. It's a
Mhm.
lot. And a lot of people
Mhm.
have their mental breakdowns because they think that they can do it all and they can't.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, you even said that there's really no secret sauce. There's really no book, right, that tells you.
Mm-mm.
What
Mhm.
essentially is your secret to balancing to do extracurricular activities in addition to
Mm.
being a working mom?
I think sometimes because we like to do things perfectly, sometimes you may bite off what more than you can chew.
Mhm.
And at those moments, it's just kind of realigning yourself and saying, okay, what are your priorities?
Mhm.
But a lot of it is, as my kids get older, they don't need me as much. So I can now, I am afforded that time that I can go and do X, Y, and Z. Now, mind you, they used to me being home.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, mommy, where are you going? But you're not even talking to me. You're in your room doing whatever it is you do.
Right.
And but when I am not here,
They know.
they
They
know. And
know.
then maybe 5 minutes soon as I get home, they're like in my face, like, okay, what you doing? And it's like, wait, just give me some breath. Let me give me some room. But
Like you were in
I
your
just
room now all of a sudden because I walked out and came back. Wait a minute
right.
now.
Right. So it was, I'm doing the extra stuff for me, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, to fulfill me, that need that I have, that I can help people, or that I can still nurture people, because like I said, the kids are getting older and I've given all the building and basic blocks that I can. And
Mhm.
now they're on the road to doing and adjusting their life and going down their roads and paths. And now I'm just, well, I'm not going to sit here and wait. I'm going to be out in the world doing
Right.
what I probably would have done if maybe I had them a whole lot earlier, or they were older earlier when I was younger. But
Mhm.
whatever, I'm
Mhm.
getting out and doing what I need to do, and giving my service back to the community any way I can.
I love that. At the end of the day, you're doing what's best for you. You did your due diligence with raising them the way that you needed to. They all have their own personalities, their own
Yes. Yep.
quirks.
Yes.
And
Yes.
at the end
Yes.
of the day, you're just like, listen, I'm living my life, right?
Right.
It's now time for me to get back to what I love to do. And
Right.
like I really love the fact that you honed in on your priorities and putting
Yes.
that into perspective. A lot of times people forget, we're
Mhm.
workaholics these days, and you forget to put
Yes.
yourself first. I always allude back to when they tell you you should put your oxygen mask on yourself before you do anybody else or your kids, and people forget that. People
But
forget.
you know what? I think in that, because I was just on the plane not too long ago, and I think I still will probably, either if it was a young child or even my own children, even my husband, I think that I would still be putting it on before. Like it's just something in me. It's
It's
just
your mommy
eh,
mode.
yes, that's exactly what it is. But yeah,
Mhm.
everything you said, yeah. But
Yeah.
I have to also add that, if they need me, I
Mhm.
drop everything.
Of course.
So I didn't want that to be missed. But yeah.
Of course, most
Hmm.
definitely. Now, they can take care of themselves for the most part, as they were younger. And it really, like you said, I
Yes.
love that the fact that you said it depends on the age range, right? When
Yes.
they're babies, they're very needy. They
Yes.
need mommy. They need mommy more than
Hmm.
daddy. So, so it's just kind of getting into the shift of their ages, their personalities, their
Yes.
attitudes, all
Yes.
inclusive. Now, when you look back at it, Do
Mhm.
you think, how do you put yourself first when it comes to your mental, physical, and spiritual health? We talk about the mental state. What about
Mhm.
physical and spiritual health?
Well, I have to tell you, so I definitely have had some health challenges along the way,
Mhm,
and a lot of it was forgetting about me.
mhm,
Always putting everything into everybody else and forgetting about me. So I've definitely shifted that. It took some time to do, like, and I think I had to do it in stages,
mhm,
um, because I had to handle the mind first. And if you remember from last time, I told you I am a yoga instructor. I'm not currently teaching, but I want to go back into it. But that kind of started my um, that's just the
mhm,
mental piece of it.
mhm,
And then slowly the health and the body piece started to come. So I think it was, for me, it happened in stages.
mhm,
Everybody's going to be different. It wasn't to the point that, I know some people say when you exercise, you kind of give off those stressors and that tension. It was different for me because I
mhm,
was already active with being in the kid's life and being with
mhm,
my husband, right? We just always was on the go, and we were always doing something, and I'm always in the house doing something. So
mhm,
it wasn't like that part wasn't, it was, for me, it was mental because it was just coming through a lot of stuff, dealing with parents and aging parents and that dynamic, and then dealing with, sometimes my husband suffers from depression,
mhm,
and just dealing with that piece too. So a lot of mine was mental first, and
mhm.
then the body came after it.
Okay. And people always say being mentally exhausted is worse than being physically exhausted. And it can
Yeah,
really
I
take a
agree.
toll on you. So it's
Hmm.
great that you started to do some of those things and being a yoga instructor. Now, I think too, a lot of times as a mom and a wife, we weigh and we have that heavier weight because we
Hmm.
care so much for everybody else's well-being on top of ours. So
Right,
it
right,
gets
right,
so mundane to kind of keep up with. But at the end of the day, you were built to be that type of person, right? And a lot of
right,
people say that as soon as you're a mom, your mommy clock kicks in, like you're
right,
ready to go and you're ready to
right.
move. And you talk about being a yoga instructor. What other extracurricular activities are you involved in?
um, so currently, we're you and I, because that's how I met you, in the business
Mhm.
fraternity. I'm the current regional vice president, and then yay, and then I'm also a secretary of a Black alumni group that my alumni. That my college alma mater just started, and it's coming up on a year. So
Okay.
we're building that. And
Right.
then I'm, the regional vice president for this fraternity we're in. And I've been a brother for almost going on 30 years now. So it was like one of those things, kind of like my life took foreground, and then I came in after the kids getting older, of course, and to get back into it. So that's where my volunteering started again, or just repowered within the last couple of years. So I was like, a opportunity came up with the fraternity, and I was just like, come on, let's do it. And then with the Black alumni group, it was like, there was a need,
Mhm.
and it was like, meeting with Conchetta and another fraternity brother of ours, and it was just like, let's do this. And it
Nice.
was just those things, is just, giving that help and that service. And that's what I've been doing. And right now I don't have any extra time to do anything else except for like the occasional trip. I will do a trip and with my family or my friends. But that's and I work full time. So
Right. I was gonna say, don't forget about that now. Hold on
yes,
now. You
because
got
that
a
pays the
full-time
bills to
job.
do all this other stuff.
Exactly. I said, wait a minute. When did she stop working? I missed that.
I still work.
No,
No,
that's
I
a
still work.
lot. That is a lot. And
Mhm.
one, I have to say, I thank you for giving back because, right, like you said earlier, people have helped you along your journey in your way,
Yes,
and you're now putting emphasis in giving back to other people. So I
yes.
thank you for giving back because otherwise I probably would have never met you.
No, yes, right. Because we went at an alumni event. Yes.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly.
Mhm.
So, as far as that goes, what I want to do now is take you all the way back to when
Okay.
the kids were babies.
Mm-hmm.
Think back after well, first of all, I don't even know if the company that you were at had the maternity leaves. These days you have maternity and paternity leave. But think
Mm-hmm.
back to when you took some time off
Mm-hmm.
to being with the kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? When your maternity leave was up, did you have a sense of mommy guilt because you were leaving the babies and you were trying to put work first to pay the bills? And how did you
Yes.
handle that?
So there was two different scenarios that happened. The oldest child, me and my husband, we wasn't sure that we could actually have children naturally, right?
Okay.
So we battled infertility. The first we were married like 3 years,
Okay.
and we were like, you know what? And we had been together like maybe 2 or 3 years before that.
Mhm.
So, it never happened. So we were like, okay. So we was like, oh, but let's see somebody about it. So it was, different things. And we thought we would have to go through for infertility shots and all this stuff.
Mm.
And I remember we were like, we can't afford to do all that, because if we went and did that financially, then what happens when you do have the kid or two or three? Because usually when that kind of stuff happens, you have multiple births, right?
Right,
So
right.
we just, we stopped and said, if it is what it is, God will see a way for it. So we
Exactly.
stopped all that stuff. And that
Mm.
was just our story.
Yep,
And
yep.
we said if nothing happened, we'd adopt or something, right? We were
Mhm.
very fine with, if it didn't happen naturally, we'll figure out a way.
Yep.
So when I found out I was pregnant with my oldest, it was a lot of stuff going on at work. A long-term employee was tragically killed in an
Oh,
accident,
no.
and the whole department kind of like, he was the glue that
Mm,
held the department together. So it was just a lot of stress. It was
mm,
none with me, like it was none basically on my desk, but it
right.
was just, he was such a just an integral part of this particular company.
Mhm.
And it was just very stressful. And my husband was like, I don't want you to stress, so I want you to
Mm,
come home. Found
mhm.
out I was 2 months pregnant, I was home. So I
Wow.
was home from the point when I was 2 months pregnant till then I had my oldest child. And then I think around months 8 and 9, when she was 8 and 9 months, I was like, I need to get back to work, because I was always working. Either when
Right.
I was younger, I had 2, 3 jobs. Like I was
Mhm.
always out there. And it was wonderful to be home, but it was like, I got to get back to work. So her situation was a little bit different, because then the person who took care of her was actually became a very close family friend of ours.
Mhm.
Um, but it was like a home daycare situation. So I didn't have that stress, because she at that
Gotcha.
time was the only baby,
Yep.
right? So she was just as spoiled there than she was at home.
Yep.
So then fast forward to my youngest child. I was only home with her 6 weeks and
Okay.
had to put her in daycare, but the daycare was still the same lady.
Okay.
So, and at that point, her mother, they were from the islands, and her mother actually moved from the islands to live with her. So again, she was still surrounded by love.
That's awesome.
But I did have the guilt of dropping her off and having to go to work. But it was more comforting.
Yes.
But the first one I breastfed fed for like a whole till she was about 8, 9 months.
Okay.
But then the baby, I had to only do her. I think I got a good 3 months, maybe 4 months,
Oh, wow.
because with the going back and forth to work, my oldest was a toddler, still trying to keep house up. Like my husband had to send away laundry to get washed. Like he just wanted to
Wow.
take off stress, but
Yeah.
just all of that, I got stressed. Milk wasn't coming in, so it
Mhm.
was all of that. And at that time, the new company I was with, I was kind of like the older one, so they
Mhm.
didn't have like a maternity. They had maternity leave, but they didn't have a place for breastfeeding.
Yeah.
They didn't have like different things. So I was kind of like starting a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
So my manager at the time, he was younger. He was like, I was like, I gotta go pump. And he was like, well, do you have any regular hours? I'm like, no, like I kind of like want to pump like every 3 to 4 hours, but sometimes it may be 2.5. Like I can't tell, like I gotta go. So it was just
Not
all
on
of
the
that
clock
kind
now.
of
It
stuff.
just happens.
And I was like, I can't like do it like a break. Like, hey, I'm going on my 15. Like right. So it was just all of those the things that I tell people now that I went through, and this was only my youngest will be 14. This was only like 14, 15 years ago. A lot of the stuff that people are talking about was not, and this is, you ain't talking about somebody that old, right? It's only been 15 years that a lot of the stuff now, people have breastfeeding rooms, they have paternity, they have maternity. They didn't have all that stuff. So you was kind of like stealing and borrowing. You did what you had to do for your kid. You know what I'm saying? For your family. So at the end of the day, it didn't really hurt her whether I breastfed her for a whole year or 4 months, because you look at her today, she's just as healthy. She's just as like neither one of my kids got sick a lot. They were definitely both in daycare since, they could, before they can walk. So, I just tell new moms that, you got to do what's best for your family. You got to do what's best for you. And that's the end of it,
Exactly.
Yeah, so I hope I answered the question for you. Did I?
You did. It's just like, you were saying, having that guilt in a sense that you didn't really have it, because at the end of the day, you knew that your kids were in good hands. Yeah. And luckily, and it's a blessing that you had your husband there to say, listen, I need you to take the stress off. He was that kind of force to say, listen, I know you're 2 months in, but you got to cut this off because there's a lot going on at work, and I don't want this to be put on you, and I don't want this to be put on the baby. So you guys were able to put the family first in that scenario and situation, and for those that are watching, obviously not everybody has that opportunity to do so, but you could still try to figure out how to not be as stressed. And I met up with a few friends of mine about a week or so ago, and one of them is 3 years into marriage, just had their baby. And something that he said that really hit home was the fact that he said, if you're stressing right now and you can't balance things out, best believe that when you have the baby, it's not going to get any better. So figure out a way to not get and be so stressed, and take all of those stressors out, figure out what you need to do to prioritize, and then shift into that. Because if you can't balance it right now, or you feel like you can't balance it right now, it's going to be harder because you've got another person that you got to bring into the world and that you got to raise. So I think that's really a great point. At the end of the day, you have to do what's best for all of you. Don't feel the guilt, and you just have to keep it going.
Yes.
And I think, talking yourself out of it has to do with the fact that you just had a lot of open ears. You had your husband's support, and then obviously you had the daycare support.
Yes.
And I love how you talk about your husband. How in the world did you balance connecting and reconnecting with him with everything else going on?
Girl, I have to tell you, so I can remember we had year 7. And if you talk to anybody who's married, they tell you like year 7, 8 is that's that time where the honeymoon is over. We had 2 kids at the time, and yep. Janae was a baby, and it was a lot. It was a lot going on because I wasn't diagnosed, but I definitely had some type of postpartum. We didn't know it. We didn't know it, but when we talk about it now, what I was doing and going through, I definitely probably had it, right? And I remember talking to my grandmother. She's gone now, but I remember talking to my mother's mother.
Sorry to hear that.
And she had been, it's fine. It's the circle of life, honey. It's wonderful. She had a wonderful life. And she was her and my grandfather was married maybe like almost 50 years before he passed. And I can remember telling her, because, as I got older, I started to relish in that relationship that we had, right? Because we weren't close growing up, but I saw her as like, I always like to listen to the older folks talk. I
Right.
always did. I was that person who always was sitting in earshot
Mhm.
of the card table or the women in the kitchen. I was always that kid, and I was always that kid. Angie, go run and get me this. Go run and get me that, and I run and do whatever and bring it back and whatever. So I always like listening to the wisdom. So
Mhm.
I can remember I was like, grandmama, I was like, we going through it. I was like, I'm tired. I need him to go. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I can remember her telling me, she was like, baby, you don't want him to leave your house. She
Mm.
said, if you leave your house, somebody else is going to get him. And
Mm.
then I was just like, but I don't want, she said, you think I loved your grandfather all the time? She said, do you think I was in
Mm.
love with him all the time? Do you think I liked him? She said, sometimes I didn't like him. Sometimes I loved him. Sometimes I was in love with him. Sometimes I couldn't stand the way he chewed or swallowed. All these jokes you hear people talk about is the truth. And
Yeah.
she said, it's like, think about it like you're in the ocean. I tell these people, and especially younger people like yourself who just got married, and
Mhm.
this is what she said. She said, imagine you in a boat
Mm.
and you come through this storm,
Mhm.
and you're riding the boat and you're riding the storm and the waves is going, and y'all made it through.
Mm.
And you go through the different storms, and depending on, maybe your hat fall off, maybe your clothes got wet, maybe your clothes got ripped, whatever the case is, but you've made it through the storm. And she said, it's always how you come back together once you
Mm.
go through that storm.
Mm.
So you
Mm. Mhm.
said,
Mhm.
what? And when I tell people that, and I just was like, that's how, because, and I also, maybe a couple of years ago, I actually asked, I don't want this to turn spiritual, but I definitely asked God. I said, God, look, if he's the one that is supposed to be in my life, and this is after we done been married for some time, I
Yeah.
said, if he's the one, please give me a sign.
Mm.
And every sign he gave was, it was for me. It was, you take your breath,
Mm.
you take your time, you worry about you. You got them kids, worry about the kids. And he needs to worry about himself,
Mm.
and I was always trying to make sure he was okay.
Mm.
And God was like, no, he's grown. He'll come to me
Mhm.
if he needs help.
Mm.
You're there to help him through life, but
Mhm.
I'm there to show him everything else.
Mm.
I said,
That's good. All right, got drop the mic now.
said, and when I put all of that together, it
Yeah.
was, even when the times, because you're going to have disagreements, you're not going to agree on everything, and it's okay.
Yep.
I'm a different woman than I was 20 years ago. We'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary next month. And I'm definitely a different woman. Thank you. I'm definitely a different woman after being a mom. I'm definitely a different woman after, seeing, my grandparents all leave the earth. Like, it's just how you grow
Mm.
after it, and how it touches you. You
Yep.
can't stop. You just still got to keep living. And I think that's how I do it. Is just knowing that this is not my end, it's only my beginning, and you
Yep.
just recreate yourself. There's a podcast that I want to listen to that Black Thought
Ooh,
wrote about 7 years. It's
okay.
called Seven. It's called 7 years, I believe, and it's the
7
thought
years.
that every 7 years you create, your cells and your cells and your blood recreates, like it becomes new every 7 years, like your skin. And
Okay.
I kind of knew that,
Mhm.
but you kind of forget about it. So
Right.
he kind of puts it in perspective of your life. And
Okay.
every 7 years, you reinventing yourself. And then that's something that it's the same 7 years when they said for your marriage,
For
you'll
your man.
see you'll see memes out there that say how many people have been married more than 7 years. Have you seen those yet? And
Mhm.
or it's like, how many years have you been married? And it starts to talk about, past the 7 year mark. And
Yep.
if you think about it, that was definitely our rebirth. Now, did we still have some
Mhm.
trying times? Yes, we
Of
did. But
course.
I think that we both had decided at that point that we're willing to stay in it and see where it goes. And long as we both are willing to do that, then we'll keep going year after year after year. I think once it happens that one of you stops, you know, and I mean, that's any relationship, right? Once you stop meeting somebody halfway or stop putting something into it, then it either has to become a new relationship and y'all not together no more, or you're doing something else. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that's definitely what it's been. It's just that recreation.
Isn't that
Every so
something?
often.
Isn't that something? And, you know, again, not to get into the spiritual things of it, but the number 7 is the completion. And it stands for that when you look at the study of numbers.
Yes.
And it constantly just repeats itself. Or, you know, like you said, it goes into a cycle.
Yes.
Interesting. No, that's an amazing point. And I think that's what people have to realize is when we're young, and all we love, I absolutely love my Disney movies. Like my husband is so annoyed with me right now because I've already started Hallmark movies and Christmas movies.
I haven't done, you know what? I'm usually am because I love the brightness. I want to go to Vermont one day. Like I want to go to these places. Now I know it's just all behind the scenes and stuff, but I do know that there are towns that really do it. Like they really put up the light. So I love the twinkle of it. I love the music. But I haven't started the Hallmark movies yet. I haven't. And usually I'm there. But I haven't started them yet. You're there.
I'm here. I haven't been watching it. They started in October.
Yes.
I started in October. And you know, I have to remember and pull myself back because I grew up, of course, I'm a millennial, right? So Disney, princess movies, you've always seen it. And then you get to these Hallmark movies and my husband jokes all the time. He's like, oh my God, what's the storyline? It's the same storyline for every Hallmark movie. You know, he always says that. And I'm like, so what? It's the thought that counts. But we get so caught up in the Disney movies and the Hallmark movies and all of this stuff. And you forget about the heartaches and the frustrations and the struggles. And like you said, you're not going to love that person every single day. And it made me laugh when you said sometimes you can't stand the way that they chew or you can't stand the way that they do things. And I'm just like, look at my husband sometimes and I'm just like, oh Lord. But at the end of the day, we have to realize that we go through cycles within ourselves and we're not supposed to do that. Like understanding what love is. It's not the love we thought was going to be love, right? And you have to find ways to reconnect with one another every time. And when people say, find ways to continue to date each other, they weren't kidding when they said that. Find ways to get away. Because like I don't have kids yet, or we don't have kids yet, but at the end of the day, when the kids are gone and out of the house, all that's left is the two of you. If you haven't found ways to connect and reconnect with each other during that time frame and that you have an empty nest, then what?
Yes, right. And that's the truth. And I've seen, I've had friends that they definitely crash and burned, right? Because they just didn't take time out for them being a couple. And I won't cuss, but you do get to the point that you be like, F those kids, you know what I mean? Because they get to a point that they, no matter what mommy and daddy say, we're still mommy and daddy, right? So it's like, we can't be right. We don't know what you're going through. Yeah, okay. Play the violin. And it's like, okay, you know what?
Fall flat on your face and see what happens.
Reggie, come on, let's go. We're going to go out to eat. Well, what about and one of us will say, well, what about the kids? And we'll be like, they'll be fine. There's food in the house. They both know how to cook. They'll be fine.
See? And you just gotta be, and you can't spoil them all the time. You just gotta let it be and just go.
Yep.
The point. So
you are very correct.
It is what it is. It is what it is. Now, I love how you talked about the balancing, this whole thing about balancing your husband and your kids, right? what is the secret for you on being supportive for your kids and your husband? I'm sure your husband has gone through different career opportunities. Your kids are trying to find themselves and do sports or get involved in things, and you're trying to balance supporting them both to try to figure themselves out. What's your secret to that?
I just be who I am, right? I am that cheerleader. I am the, like my husband said, you the loudest clapper. I am that person that is going to cheer you on. Definitely give you words of wisdom when you don't want to hear it, but you need to hear it. And I just stick to who I am and what I do. And I think that's my secret. No matter where we are, you know that you're going to hear me cheering for you. And it don't even matter. I look out wherever we are, and I do that for my husband, and I do that for my kids, and they kind of like, I don't know who that woman is, but at the end of the day, if I was missing, you would know it. Like you may not know it now that you needed it. And I'm that type of person who needs touch. So you know you're going to get a hug, you're going to get a kiss, whether you like it or not. And I think just being authentic and knowing that this is what I do, no matter what, I think that helps them, even though they will tell you, no, yes, it does.
Because they
and I know it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
They would miss it. They'd be like, what's wrong with her? Something's up with her.
Yes. Right. So I think it's just being true to who I am. I think that's what your secret is, or that's what my secret is, and finding what is true to you and how you can support that person with still being who you are. That's what the secret is.
That's a great point, because a lot of times I find some couples saying, Rochelle, throughout this relationship or this marriage, I lost myself. Because they forgot. People take the fact that, when you get married and you're going into your husband's family and trying to find ways to fit in, they lose their authenticity, right? And they're just like, what now?
Right.
My whole world, it comes crashing down when we're no longer together because I don't know how to handle myself anymore.
Right.
So it's all about that.
Yes, it definitely is all about that. And then I don't want that for my kids too, right? Because I have 2 girls that are watching what their mom does and watching how to become a woman, right? So I just want to be the best role model that I can be for them, because I want them to go out here and be strong and be independent, but be dependent when you got to, not because you need somebody, because you want somebody in your life.
Right. Not because you need somebody, but because you want somebody in your life. That's so important, right? That is so important. Wow. And a lot of people just forget that. And unfortunately, if you think about like the game of life and how we're going through the board and we're told that this is what we have to do. After you graduate, whether that's high school or college, you get married, you have kids, this is a part of it, but life happens and not everybody does things in that said order. And what works for them works for them. People get away with that. Now, a lot of people, and again, you talk about wisdom. I too love talking to the older and the wiser because I learned so much from them. Now, God rest her soul, she was like a second mom to me, and her name was Sarah Terry. She always told me, she said, you'll see it, but in the marriage, no offense to your husband, but you are going to be compromising a lot more than he compromises. And you're going to be doing a lot more balancing and handling it in the household to hold it together a lot more than he. He may not think so, provide and protect is his role, and you do everything else. And so how do you then go about communication without getting frustrated because you know that your husband can't handle certain situations or certain things? And
you still get frustrated. Who told you that lie? you still get frustrated, girl. It's one of those things that it's like, maybe this week it'll be a battle, maybe this month will be a battle, maybe this whole year will be a battle. But
Uh,
it's just, you kind of put your sleeves up and you just
yeah.
do what you got to do. And
Okay.
that's just what it is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And at the end of the day, my husband has definitely said, he was like, I know you do a lot in this
Mhm.
household,
Mhm.
and just like, I think recently, I won't do something.
Mhm.
I'm just not doing it.
Mhm.
And I think he realized it was because one, maybe sometimes they was taking advantage of, this is what I do,
Mhm.
and let mommy do it because she'll do it anyway. And
Right.
it comes to a time that mommy can't do it or won't do it all no more. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And when he realized that, he was just like, wow, like you
Mhm.
do a lot. And I'm just like, yeah, I know. But it's not like a woman, or to say, I'm doing this, that, and what, like a grown woman.
Mhm.
Some women will tell you what they doing, but a grown woman ain't gonna tell you. They just gonna do it. And then
Mm.
when they stop doing, you're gonna notice it. You're gonna
Yeah.
notice it when they stop.
Mm.
Hmm.
You'll be like, wait a minute, hold on. What happened there? I gotta do what?
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
Now, uh, do you think though it's important to praise them for trying to pick up the slack and do things when you do stop doing things and they're like, you know
Hmm.
what, let me try to attempt it. Do you praise them a little bit or do you
Hmm.
just okay?
But not all the time.
Okay.
Nope. Like, you just gotta figure it out. Like, how have you managed people before? You've
I
managed people
I
before.
have,
No?
but
Uh-huh.
gosh, it's been a long time. Hmm.
So when you manage people, or when you're teaching people, when you're training people, right?
Hmm.
It's one of those things some people are good at and some people aren't, right? Because again, it's that give and take. You kind of lay things out on how the process should go.
Hmm.
Then you have to pull back a little bit to see if they got part of it. And then
Yep.
you pull back a little bit more to see how much more they can push forward without you.
Gotcha.
And so during that time, you can't give all the praise at first, because
Mm.
then they get cocky, or maybe they want to start cutting corners, or maybe they
Mm.
want to skip steps.
Yep.
No. The key is you have to learn the process the way it's laid out.
Hmm.
Then once you become efficient at it, then you can take little steps or whatever. So
Yep.
when I
Yep.
say about giving the praise, you can't give it all at the beginning. You
Got
have
it.
to kind of strategically put it in, that they don't even know you're doing it.
Right. See,
So
I
so
love it.
by
I
the
like that.
end, yes, by the end, they feel like they've done it themselves, and you send them back there like, you
Mhm.
did,
You didn't realize
right?
it, but I planned this. See,
Right.
and
So
I
that's how
think
you
for
do it.
me, yes, and see, for me, my previous roles, I was managing people, but they weren't my direct reports. I was more so
Hmm.
managing them as far as project wise.
Okay.
So it's a little different, but
Yes.
I definitely understand what you mean as far as like pulling back, right? Because you have to
Yes.
manage them. The processes are a little different in training, but I like
Yes.
that. I like that.
Yep.
It's like you
Hmm.
slowly get them used to what they want to do. And you don't say anything, you just kind of sit back and you
Yep.
observe and you see what works for
Hmm.
them and what doesn't work for them.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times people forget that unfortunately, when you complain about something too much or you're telling them what they're not doing, you push them
Hmm.
away further
Hmm.
and you don't even realize it.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah,
I
so
think,
it's definitely been those times where me and my husband, we have to tag team, right?
mhm,
Because depending on where I am mentally, depending on where he is mentally, whether you kind of jump on them, or you just be like, babe, tag me in, like, right, because you've gotten to your breaking point. And then the
right.
same with me, like, I've gotten to my breaking point, so I have to tag him in. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
that's how I kind of. But sometimes we both got to be bad cop at the same time.
See,
It all depends. But we just you kind of look at your mate and figure it out, like, okay, this is too much. All right,
mm,
let me get in there and help that piece, because You don't want to seem overbearing, and we probably are going to be, because we're parents of a
Right.
17 and a 14-year-old soon. So it's going to be what it is. But we definitely understand that our kids can come to us. They do come
Yes.
to us with different things, and that's the key. And if they can't come to us, they go to somebody in the village, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that, when it's all said and done, that they're out in the world and they're producing and they're helping and they're serving and all that good
Mhm.
stuff. But like you said, you can't just jump all in and be like, no, you did it wrong, da, 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 da.
Right.
Because like you said, they're never going to want to do it again.
They're never going to want to do it again. And you have to
Hmm.
just be really mindful and careful, right? It depends on the person's personality. Sometimes you can be very direct with them and not beat around the bush. Or
Yes.
sometimes you just have to figure out a way to finagle your wording so that you can help them along the way.
Right. Right. And I think my husband is really learning that, because he's a very he's a wordy individual. You'll meet him one day. He's very wordy and he's never direct and to the point. So, but sometimes his choice of words could be,
Yeah.
babe. And then sometimes I'm rough, you know. So
You,
like I
right?
said, we
Y'all balance each
girl.
other.
Mhm.
Y'all balance each
Yes,
other out for sure.
yes,
And I think
yes.
it's funny you say that, because my husband is very direct. My husband manages people. And
Mhm.
sometimes he'll be in meetings and I'll overhear him and I'm like, ouch. You didn't have to say it like that. But he's very direct and to the point. And then
Right,
me, he's just like, he already knows what I'm going to say before I even say it. Like, it's kind of gotten to
right.
that point in our relationship. We've been together for 5 years and he already kind of knows what I'm going to say. But it's hard, right? Because you have to learn each other's communication styles. And then you have
Right.
to also understand that you have to let them be them and get in their own space and bubble.
Yes.
For us being very independent and then
Mhm.
getting married, we had to make a lot of adjustments. And people
Mhm.
always say communication is a key. Like, if without
Mhm.
communication, things will crumble.
Yes.
Now,
Mhm.
when it comes to communication and connecting with other people, some people fall off when they become moms and their friends are still single, or if they become
Mhm.
married. And it's hard for them to kind of balance out, or they just, it just naturally falls off.
Mhm.
Do you think that at the time when your kids were younger, you and your husband had different sets of friends that were more working moms and dads, or did you still stick to some of your same friends?
Oh no, we still stick to some of the same friends, and then we added
Hmm.
friends, right? So
Okay.
because the kids growing and they got little besties at the time, and you become friends with their parents and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Now, are all those parents our friends? No,
Yeah.
because you do realize that at the end of the day, you still have to watch who you let into your circle, right? Who you let
Mm-hmm.
into your family, even though they may be besties of your kids. The kids is friends, right?
Yes.
Me and you ain't got to be besties, because I
Right.
really don't like you. You know what I mean? Like, you just not my cup of tea. But the kids is cool. The kids
Right.
have fun. I'm
That's
I'm
it.
I'm I'm with it. But no, we definitely have the same friends, because a lot of our friends are part of our village. Like, the kids know they got aunties and uncles that aren't blood. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And that's one of the things, because both my husband and I are we we're both alphas, believe it or not. So we
Oh,
bash
I
a lot
believe
of
it for
cars.
you.
Yes,
Never met
yes,
him, but yes.
yes, we're both alphas, and we're both the oldest in our set of siblings.
Ah,
So,
yikes. Y'all are used to the
yeah,
controls.
yes. So it's a little bit different for us, but like I said, we've kept a lot of the same friends. Like, I have friends on my one hand that I've had one girl that we've been since ninth grade. We're
Wow.
going on 35, 36 years. Cheddar, almost 30 years. Like, it's just one of the things that, we're very, how my husband say, we're very loyal.
Yes, I
We're
love it.
very loyal, but
I
we
love
don't
it.
take no crap, but we're very loyal. Hmm.
I love that. I
Hmm.
think it's just finding that too, because unfortunately, some people feel like they say that when you get married, don't hang around a lot of your single friends, or don't hang around some of
Hmm.
that stuff, but that's not always true.
Hmm.
It depends on the
Right,
situation and who you can talk to and trust. Obviously
right,
there's seasons where people fall off automatically,
right,
but you find your grind and you find your time and who you want to hang with.
right, right. And I mean, I tell you the truth, all of my closest friends are single,
Mhm.
but they're not, you know me, so they're not like single out in the club single, right? They're
Right,
not single, like, you know what I mean? They're professionals,
right.
and they choose to be single. There's a
Yes,
difference
yes.
whether you choose or whether you circumstances, right? And
Mhm.
a lot of my friends, like, they may be in long-term relationships, but they choose not to be married.
Mhm.
So it never, I'm their married friend, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? And then I come as a package. I come with my husband and I
yeah.
come with my kids. So if you say you know me and love me, then you know my husband and you know my kids.
My kids, and you accept
Hmm.
us as who we are.
Yes.
I
Yep.
like that. I like
Hmm.
that. And that's who true friends are at the end of the day.
Yes.
Just like for me and my best friend, just like how you said you have a middle school friend. I have my best friend and I have been friends since I was in the 7th grade and she was in the 8th.
Hmm.
And we've watched each other through a whole bunch. And we don't always talk to each other. We talk to each other, we always joke
Yes.
like once in a blue moon, right? But every
Yes.
time we get together, it's like nothing,
You don't
right?
miss a
And
beat. Yep.
exactly, we don't miss a beat. And we don't sit there and say, oh man, I haven't talked to you in such and such this long or that long. Life happens. But at the end of the day, you're still friends. Now, as far as that goes, we talked about this earlier and we joked because Hallmark, you got to catch up on your Hallmark. What do you find yourself saying, oh my goodness, I need to binge watch these shows? Like, is it healthy for a working mom and a wife to binge watch TV? Or do you feel like if you're binge watching, you're balancing doing something else?
Both things. Like, I don't even have a problem with, oh, I don't have no time or whatever. And then if I am binge watching something, I may be doing laundry at the same time. I may be doing this, that, and the third at the same time. Or I may be like, I picked up Squid Games a couple of weeks ago and
What?
I watched the whole entire thing from start to finish on a Sunday. Yes, I did.
What?
Hmm. Yes, I
What?
did. Hmm.
Oh my goodness. That is something I still have yet to watch, honestly. Oh
It
my
was
goodness.
really good. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I
That's
really
good.
did.
Yeah, I heard good things about it and bad things about it,
Hmm.
depending on the age range.
Yeah, I was like, fast forward, like, what? Oh, what? But it wasn't that many of it. Like, it wasn't
Okay.
that much of that. Because half of the gory parts is what it's in the news today. So
Right.
that part wasn't that bad, but the other parts, I was like, why we need that? Did you really have to enter that right here? So yeah,
Right.
but I
I
did.
hear
But
you.
no, I don't feel any guilt. I just kind of feel like, what do I want to waste my whole time watching a certain thing? But
Mhm.
the guilt is gone.
You're like,
That
whatever.
guilt
At
is
this
gone. Yeah,
point,
no.
it's just a part of life. This binge watching is a part of our nature and it's a part of our routines these days.
Yes, it
We got to
is.
get
Yes,
away.
it is. Mm-hmm.
Wow. No, no, I absolutely love all this. Like just talking about it. And I think it's really important for people to understand balancing being a working mom and,
Mm-hmm.
wife. That's a lot. They
Yes.
say that being a mom is a full-time job, being a wife,
Mm-hmm.
full-time job, and then on top of that, you have a full-time job. So you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to just figure it all out. But everyone always says once your mommy clock hits, it starts going. And like you said,
It's true.
you just go.
Yes, it's very true.
Definitely. So what other advice do you have? What are your last words for all of this?
Have fun with it, enjoy it.
Yes.
That, because I have a friend who, she just became a mom. Her baby now is about, I guess about 18, 19 months now.
Mhm.
And the thing, she was having a rough time with pregnancy and relationship stuff. And I just told her, enjoy it, enjoy being pregnant, enjoy the ride, because it goes quick.
Mhm.
And I think that's what my advice would be to somebody is just enjoy your time, your
Mhm.
pregnancy, when the kids are younger, when it's just you're sitting there watching a movie or watching a show with them. Just be present in that and enjoy it, because just like that, it could be gone. Like I'm watching um Charlie Brown, the Great Pumpkin,
Oh,
and I still love it. My kids did not want to watch it with me. So I had me a cup of wine and I'm just watching it. And I'm just missing that because they used to be happy and sit with me and watch it. And we'd be sitting there. And it was only, and I never realized till a couple years ago, it was only 25 minutes,
yeah.
right?
A
I'm
lot
thinking this
happening in
was
that
the
small little time.
I'm thinking that this is the longest thing ever. And just a couple years ago, I was like, this is only 25 minutes. And when I tell you, they used to be glued. They didn't want no parts of it. They was in the back. They was in the oldest room, cackling, having a good old time on FaceTime with somebody else. And I'm down here watching it by myself. So just enjoy the times. Just enjoy those moments. Um, and be present in them. And that's the most I can tell somebody is be present in all of those times, because it's just you'll cherish those.
Yeah.
And the kids will come back, but it probably be some time. It'll probably be not until they're probably married and have their own children, their own families. But just for you, enjoy those times because they see you enjoying it and they see you being present. So that's what the advice I would give.
I love it. And unfortunately, like, so for me, I'm no longer on Facebook and social media and Instagram right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on is LinkedIn right now. And most people are like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy. But it's great because I've actually feel like I'm more present and in the moment. I'm not glued
Mm-hmm.
to my phone. I feel like everyone's gonna have neck problems
Mm-hmm.
because they're so stuck doing this or they're stuck doing,
Yes.
always on their phones. But
Yes.
kids pick up on that and they notice that. Was
Mm-hmm.
even thinking about that with my niece, like when I was on Facebook and Instagram and she was trying to get my attention and I was just like pushing her off, and I had to catch
Mm-hmm.
myself and be like, oh, you know what, let me actually play with my niece because she wants me
Mm-hmm.
auntie time. So
Mm-hmm.
technology has just kind of taken a toll, right?
Mm-hmm.
it's just not it's just not the best thing much anymore. But it's just so sad to me to kind of see where we're going. And a part of it,
Mm-hmm.
like, with everything happening with Facebook/Meta, maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna shut it down for a little bit, but that's not possible because they're gonna lose all that money and all that time.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just it's amazing to hear your perspective, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're missing is other people learning from those that are older and wiser, those that have been there before, right? Nothing
Right.
is under the sun. Here's what
Right.
you went through, and here's what you could do to help other people. All the resources are there, the people are there, all you have to do is ask, and people that are willing
That's
to,
right.
they'll share.
Yep. And one of the things that when I went back into volunteering and stuff, it wasn't so much like I am not that person who, um, you know, I definitely know I'm not the smartest one in the room. I definitely know I'm not the one with the spreadsheets and I can show you a chart mm-mm. But what I can do is listen,
Mm-hmm.
connect you with somebody else who probably can help you in certain facets of your life or something like that, or just be able to talk about my experience. And those are the things that you can't find in a chart, you can't find in a book.
Yep.
So I think that was one of the things that I can offer, and I thought that, hey, why not, somebody wants to listen.
Obviously, yes. No, this has been amazing. And I appreciate all of your nuggets. I tell you, I just love it because
Thank
you
you.
look back and you're like, oh my goodness, I want to be my mom one day, and I want to be Angela one day. I want to be all of these people and take bits and pieces of what you've been told. And it's just amazing. So I appreciate you again.
Thank you.
Inspires so much. So
And I'm always ready to come back. And I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate you thinking so much of me that you would have me on your podcast. So I appreciate that.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, listen, I have kept you away from your husband and your kids for
Yeah,
about
you
an
saw them coming in.
so listen.
I was like, oh God.
Okay. It's okay. There you go. You know, if you're in the know or in the zone, they know you're missing.
Yes. Yep.
So I thank you so very much again. And I'm sure I will be talking to you soon if that's not on this podcast too. But thank you.
All right, dear. It was a pleasure. Mwah.
Have a good night.
All righty. Talk to you soon.